Hello and welcome to the Holly Meredith Show. I want to talk to you today about tyranny. Again, so many people listening to me have called and emailed me and asked me to go into more detail about why I feel so vehemently about it. And I am happy to do that. In fact, I'm delighted that so many of you are interested. And if any of you don't know what tyranny is, please look it up. Just like they tell you in school, or maybe they don't tell you that anymore, but look it up. If you look up tyranny, you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. Because we live right now in a society where we have a president and a Congress and a Supreme Court that do as they damn well please. They do not obey your Constitution in any way, shape, or form. I will break down for you as much as I can in regular layman's terms what is going on daily. But when you finally understand how your country is going, what is happening to your personal freedoms, then you will understand tyranny and why it must be fought and why you have to do it, whether you like to do it or not. And I also want to tell you this, which you may not know. When George Washington made our country, only 45% of the people of that time wanted to be involved in a war against King George. That's all. Not even the whole half of the country. He had to fight to get people to come and fight him and join him to fight against King George. 20% of the population just wanted to be left alone. They didn't care what was going on as long as they could get their turnips. And there was 25% of the population that liked King George. They were against Washington and against creating a country. They were perfectly happy being under King George's sway. But the Stamp Act and the Tea Rebellion, all of the Tea Party information you may or may not have learned in school, all of those things came about because people got up to here with having their liberties taken away by a distant king who lived in another country, kind of like us and Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C., our capital, is another country. It has become another country. It has become another country because the people there are not like the rest of us. The laws they write that pertain to you and I, they are not covered by them. They made it that way. They wrote it that way. So they are not under Obamacare because it's a bad bill. The quality of your health care is going to plummet. The cost of your health care is going to go up. You're not going to have enough doctors. You're not going to have quality physicians. You're going to be told what hospital you can go to. The whole thing is a nightmare and nonsense, and that is why they have omitted themselves from being in it. That puts them again in a different country. When you have the President of the United States and the legislature and your court system all conspiring together, which they do, to write laws to you that take away your liberties, hamper your ability to function, and take as much money away from you as they can on a daily basis with all of the different taxes we all have to pay, not just your income tax, but all of the taxes we pay. All of that money, as I've said before many times on shows that I do, this year alone was $3.7 trillion. Can you even figure out how much money that is? It would be up to the moon and back 3 times. That is an incomprehensible amount of money. It's such a huge amount of money, nobody can really understand how one country, this country, how one country can produce that much money in 1 year in a piss-poor economy. Because that's what we're in. We're in a piss-poor economy. We're under 1.7% growth. If you had a draft horse pulling a wagon down the street, we'd be doing better. That's where we are after 5 years of this imbecility. And even more regulations are coming your way. Even more onerous taxes are coming your way. They all hit after the 2014 elections. That's why I tell you you're in a different country. Now go back to tyranny and why you have to pay attention. And we don't have to live like this. You don't have to put up with this. You do not. You may think you do, but you don't. You can get out of office every single person that's elected. The Constitution provides that mechanism for us. You'll never hear about it because the lamestream socialist media will never tell you about these things because they want socialism. Because remember, they're in that other country. They're in the top part of the echelon. They are included in all the decisions that take place. You're not, but they are. They get special briefings at the White House. They get off-the-record conferences. They get special selective parties that you're locked out of. Remember, you can't take your children to the White House for a tour. No. But Beyonce and Jay-Z can go to the White House and have a party on you, and they get to go through the White House. Yeah, they do, and their friends and all the other high contributors to that other country. You have to look at it as what it is. If our government passes a law, any law, I don't care what law it is, any law they pass, all of them must be included, or none of us should obey it. If you have a government that does not follow our laws, which we have every single day, if they don't follow our laws, then we shouldn't be following them either. Keep that in mind. You don't owe a country that doesn't have allegiance to you, you don't owe that government any allegiance back. No, you don't. And in our Constitution, that incredible document, it clearly tells you the mechanism for removing from office anybody whom you don't want there. In fact, Thomas Jefferson exhorts you to do that. He says, if you find yourself, as American citizens, living under a government that is turning into tyranny, that is taking away your liberties, that is causing your daily life not to be the kind of life you want, it is your duty to remove them. And the mechanism for removing them out of their office is in the Constitution. It's there. You can have anybody elected in our state government removed. You can recall them. You can impeach them. You can have a referendum. There are many, many different mechanisms, none of which you'll see. You know, by the way, if you didn't know this, our wonderful government has attorneys. Everybody in power has attorneys that you pay for. You and I pay for them. Attorneys to protect them from any of these things that could get them out of office. So you may not like them, but your tax dollars are paying for the attorneys to protect them from being removed. Your tax dollars don't provide you with an attorney if somebody in the government doesn't like what you're doing. You have to pay for your own attorney, and you're also paying for theirs. Remember, they write the laws, and it's only been in the last 50 years, thank you, Lyndon Baines Johnson, may you rot in freaking hell. It's only been in the last 50 years that all of these laws that they passed, they are not under. Do you want to live in a country where their country is above you and then the rest of us are down here? That is called a monarchy. And that is kind of what you're living under now, on our way to being in a communist monarchy country. And if that sounds like you can't do that, of course you can. Stalin was the king, Hitler was the king. You call them a dictator, but it's the same thing. They had full, complete, total power over the people in their country. They did terrible things. And the rest of the country was so afraid of them that they put up with it. They didn't do anything. A lot like now. When you say to yourself, why is this being allowed to happen? It's because people are afraid. So they don't speak back. They're afraid to have their right of free speech because they pay for it. They'll be picketed. The front of their building will be picketed. Or somebody will call them up and say, you can't say that on air, we'll take you off the show. Or their sponsors will get picketed and pulled. That's not freedom of speech. That's extortion and blackmail. And that is kind of where we are at the moment. So going back to what I was telling you before, we need to revisit everything that Jonathan Mayhew had to say. I brought him up in my last show, and you should look him up. Google Jonathan Mayhew, 1720. When he said, you must bitterly, and I underline bitterly, you must bitterly protest any infringement on your liberties. And we need to revisit them today, because we have a presidency, our Obama presidency, that continues on a daily basis its legacy of lawlessness. I know that sounds harsh to all of you out there, and some of you may love the man, I don't know why, but some of you may love him. Our current president disobeys our Constitution daily. We have laws on the books that this country wrote for its representatives to obey regarding our border daily. Last year, he did one of his executive orders that allows dreamers, that's what they're called, that allows dreamers to stay in the country, even though they're not supposed to be here, they should be deported, because he couldn't get the DREAM Act through Congress. Remember, Congress is you. Congress was created to represent the people against the president, and then after the president and Congress go through all their machinations and you can't come to any kind of an agreement, then it was supposed to go to the Supreme Court for a final adjudication of the law before it became law. We don't do any of that anymore. None of it. but that's the way your laws are written. That's what we should be doing. So on a daily basis, you want to come to this country, they even tell you in Mexico. They even have it in the embassies in Mexico. Here's how you get food stamps. This is what you do when you get to our country. And when you come to the border, what you have to say, we are spending taxpayer money right now to do this in Mexico. Your money. When you come to the border, all you have to say to the border agents is that you have a creditable fear of retribution from the drug cartels. Our own government is telling Mexican illegals how to get across our border. Yes, they are. They're telling them how to get the food stamps that we are supposed to be providing for our citizens who fall upon hard times. They're telling them exactly where to go, how to do it, who to see, how much you're entitled to, what you have to say to get it. Yes, they are. That is directly breaking our laws, because our laws say if you enter our country illegally, for any reason, if you enter our country illegally and cannot prove that you have a right to remain here, prove, not say, prove that you have a right to remain here because you have some kind of status in which you're afraid for your lives. If you can't prove it, you are to be, this is written law, you are to be deported. Not maybe, not an ACLU hearing, not we're going to turn you loose and hope that you show up for the hearing. We're going to have you 2 or 3 or 4 months from now, which they never show up for. Of course they don't show up for them. And by the way, all these people that are coming to our border right now, we're putting them up in hotels that you pay for. This is all true. I didn't make it up. You can Google it. You can Google, it's called Lawlessness on Our Southern Border. The ICE agents, the border agents, they're not allowed to do anything. They are not allowed. They're not allowed to enforce our law. That's because Janet Napolitano at Homeland Security has told them they cannot enforce our law. That's because Janet Brewer, the governor of Arizona, was sued by your attorney general to not enforce your law. Are you following this again? It's completely backwards in every way. There are laws that people in our country in past Congresses have written to address these issues. Flouted every single day. Another one. Here's another one. Egypt. Egypt had a military coup caused by us. We caused it. We had Hosni Mubarak in place for many, many years. Yes, he was a strong man in Egypt. Yes, he was. But he was our strong man. He liked our country. He backed Israel. He did the right thing as far as the stupid Muslim Brotherhood is concerned. He banned them. So we decided, since he was in his 80s and his people were a little restive under him, probably all started by the Muslim Brotherhood, that we would help get him out of power. And we did. And we did. This country gave arms and money and military advisors to the people who wanted to overthrow Mubarak. So we got him out of power. And then you had a lot of rioting and carrying on and dead people and stuff. And then they had their first democratic election in the history of Egypt, and they elected Mohammed Morsi, who is a Muslim Brotherhood leader. But he was democratically elected by the people of the country. However, when he got elected, he had told the people of Egypt that he was not going to instill Sharia law. Sharia law is a militant Islamic law in which women have absolutely no rights of any kind. If you're in those countries and you're gay, they kill you. So why liberals like them, I will never know, because you won't get to be Ellen DeGeneres in any of these countries. No, you won't. If you're gay, you stay in the closet, and you better hope nobody opens it, because they kill you. They are not interested in how you came to be that way. They don't think it's cute or funny. They just kill you. And women, nope, if you're even accused of having an affair with anybody, they don't have to prove it. If somebody says she had an affair with somebody, they will stone you to death. You, the woman, not the man, you, the woman, will be publicly stoned by your own family. That is Sharia law. If you are caught stealing something, they will cut off your hand at the wrist. That is Sharia law. And that abounds in most of these nutcase Islamist countries. So after Morsi got elected, he started to put in place Sharia law in Egypt. And Egypt is a pretty sophisticated country. Most of the people there like a secular lifestyle, meaning the women don't have to wear the goofy veils, the men don't have to be bearded. They can go out and drive cars. They can do things that most people in other Islam countries can't do. And they didn't want to go back 500 years to medieval Egypt. So that's when you started seeing all the rioting in Tahrir Square. So what do? They get overthrown. General Sisi overthrows them and throws them out of office, and now you have a military regime in place. A military coup took place, and our law, written, says if a military coup takes place in a country where a democratic government has been elected and we are giving them any foreign aid of any kind, think more than $1 billion we give them every year, we are giving them any foreign aid of any kind, that aid must be stopped. That's our law. Now you would think the president of the country would understand what it means, and I guarantee you he does. But has he stopped it? No. This is what he did. He changed the semantics. He refuses to call it a military coup, just like he refuses to call Benghazi a terrorist attack, just like he refuses to call Nidal Hassan and Fort Hood a terrorist attack, all for the same purpose. He doesn't want to call them a terrorist attack. He likes the Muslims. So, I'm getting ready to go to my first break. I always get off my subject because there are so many things to talk about. But I want to be clear when I say this to you. We should have stopped the aid to Egypt immediately. It is one of our laws that our people wrote. This president flouts the law by calling it an uprising and still is sending the money, and by the way, arming both sides. I'm getting ready to go to my break. Please come back after, and I want to give you even more information about the tyranny that is running rampant in our country.
Hi, my name is Michael Goldenberg. I'm the owner of Quality Ink and Toner. We've been in business for 8 years now. We sell compatible and remanufactured toner cartridges. Specialize in offices, doctors, lawyers, insurance companies. Delivery's free if you're in Palm Beach County or Broward. If you're outside of that area, drop shifts are available. Phone number is 561-396-4700. Okay, if you call us today, you can have same-day delivery. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Hello and welcome back to the Holly Meredith Show. I'm sorry I got off course. I do digress because there are just so many things to talk about because our country is in such a turmoil at the moment, in my opinion again. And I'm not right about everything. No, I'm not. But I'm fairly well educated and I do pay close attention to everything. And I do remember a country where you didn't have to wear your seatbelt and you didn't have to wear a helmet and you didn't have to go to a particular school and you were allowed to say whatever you wanted. And all of this crazy stuff with this political correctness has to stop. It's an erosion of your freedoms on a daily basis being taken away from you by that other country that doesn't have to obey any of these rules. They smoke in the Capitol building. They do what they damn well please. You're the ones who have to do what they want you to do, not them. Keep about, that's the way it's been brought about because that's how they want it. You send all the money to them and you struggle to have enough money to live yourself. They live off the largesse of you and they do whatever it is they feel like doing. So back to Jonathan Mayhew, a very interesting person. He was writing a lot of very, what would be called seditious documents today. Only because he was saying, I don't like what's going on. Today his documents would be called seditious, another good word for you. First published in Boston in 1750, remember he was born in Martha's Vineyard, a discourse concerning the unlimited submission and non-resistance, unlimited submission and non-resistance to the high powers. It was a sermon delivered on the 100th anniversary of the execution of Charles I. This is important. Charles I did get his head cut off. It was so powerful that it was published in London in 1752. And then again in 1767. In fact, this sermon was the first volley of the American Revolution, setting forth the intellectual and scriptural justification for rebellion against the crown. Scriptural, I want to say that again, scriptural. Although many people in power at the moment want you to pretend that there is no God, there never was a God, we just came about because there was some big bang that happened in the universe, and they want you to be an atheist and listen to what they have to say. There is no God postings or in schools around the country. You're not allowed to wear crosses on certain canvases, but you're allowed to bow to Mecca every day. In my opinion, once and for all, this matter has to be settled. The country was founded, our country, your country, my country, and now the other country, that would be your government, wants to take that off your money. Yes, they do. They want to take off your money, in God we trust. They want to take out of everything any reference whatsoever to your Creator, and they do it every chance they can. If you listen to a lot of the meetings they have and the different things you see on television, you will see the things you used to hear all the time, although they open Congress every day with a prayer. You may not know that, but Congress gets opened every day with a prayer. But they want to take that right and that privilege away from you, because if you believe in a God, then you're not going to believe in your government. Remember Stalin, remember Ho Chi Minh, remember these people that want to replace God with themselves. And in Obama's case, it's easy because he thinks he's God. They want to replace the figure that you've always looked to for help and succor and believing in with them. They want you to turn to them for your food. They want you to turn to them for where you live. They want you to turn to them for what you're going to do with your children, when you used to get up every day and say, thank you, God, for giving me another day on your beautiful planet, and go on about your life. Well, that's not the same thing as thank you, Congress, for letting me live another day, and here's all the money I can give you on a daily basis, because that's about where we are at the moment. Think this. After you pay, all of us, after you pay everything that gets taken out of your check every time you get paid, let's say you're making $75,000 a year, you're going to leave with about $42,000 of it. That's what you're going to actually get that you can spend. Now, why the hell should you be giving up all that money to these faceless people who will spend it the way they want to spend it while you pay them to spend it? Something is extremely wrong with that. So back to Jonathan Mayhew and his incredible document about why it is incumbent upon you. It is your duty to fight, not just to submit and say, oh, what can I do? What can I do? You can do a hell of a lot, but you have to do it. Even if it's just talking to other people, even if it's saying, I'm not going along with this routine, I don't like anything about it, you have to do it. The more people who do it, the more strength you have. This is why all minorities joined together in the 60s. The Jewish people, the Hispanic people, and the Negro people all joined together in the 60s to form a coalition so that they would have strength in numbers. Because the Jewish population has never been more than 2% of our population, ever. In the 60s, the Hispanic population was about 9%, and the Negro population was about 12%. So individually, they had no clout. They couldn't get anything accomplished. But when they all joined together, then they had almost 25% of the population. Now they had numbers. Now they had clout. This is Holly Meredith. I'm getting ready to go to my second break. When you come back, if I'm not hoarse, I'm going to give you some more information about what is required for you to maintain your freedoms in our wonderful America the Beautiful. Hello, this is Holly Meredith from The Holly Meredith Show. I would like to tell you about Home Defense Law. They are a national law firm dedicated to preventing foreclosures on your home. If you are having a problem with your lender, if you can't afford your mortgage payment, if you're behind on your mortgage, if you're facing a sale date, if you want all of that to stop, please call 1-800-227-8192. One call and you'll be sleeping like a baby. Hello and welcome back to the Holly Meredith Show. I'm going to get involved a little bit in things that are very important for you to know. And as I tell you all the time, I tell you truths. I don't misdirect you or tell you miscommunications. You can verify and check everything I say. You can Google it for yourself if you believe in Google, but better yet, go to the library and read a book that nobody can change the content of. Two other important developments in pre-revolutionary societies, which I feel we're in. Members of the ruling class lost the self-confidence, leading to the class's increasing ineptitude, and the intelligentsia were alienated from the regime. This is what's going on in our country at the moment. A Rasmussen poll, and the Rasmussen polls are the most respected polls in our country. They do the most intelligent polling, and they are the least political, at least at the moment. A Rasmussen poll on October 28, 2012, found that 60% of our countrymen do not believe the federal government and do not believe that the federal government has the consent of the governed. Only 25% do, and 15% are not sure. This is a frightening statistic. It means that your people, your country, your populace don't trust your government, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. That's an erosion of your faith and trust in the people that run your lives. A very, very scary proposition. Another poll done in June 2013, just 2 months ago, only 35% of likely voters have a favorable opinion of the federal government, and 60% view Washington, D.C. as a very bad place indeed. Are you listening to those figures? Only 30% basis from how their lives are going. Even worse, another Rasmussen poll just in early June 2013 shows that 56% of your likely voters view the federal government as a threat to individual rights. Did you hear that statistic? In June of this year, 56% of likely voters, who are usually the most educated, feel that our federal government, yes, that government, is a threat to your individual rights. This is exactly the stew that George Washington and Jonathan Mayhew entered into. They were very unhappy with the infringement on their rights by King George, a person in another country who had really nothing to do with them in their colonies. And that's when they started talking about it, giving speeches about it, talking to other people about it, and saying, this is not the way we're supposed to be living. We don't want a Stamp Act. We don't want to have to throw our tea in the harbor at Boston. We want to be able to run our own lives like we used to be able to run them before the federal government became a government that does not pay attention to our Constitution at all, has a Supreme Court that rewrites laws to pretend to make them constitutional, think the Affordable Care Act, otherwise known as Obamacare, doesn't stop sending money to our enemies. Remember this, we are still sending foreign aid to Libya. Libya still gets foreign aid from us, where 4 of our guys died waiting for help from our nondescript, idiotic government that never came. Could have come, should have come, would have come with anybody else. But these people felt they didn't want to have a terrorist attack right before the election. So they did everything they could after the fact to lie about it, say it wasn't a terrorist attack, it was a stupid video, caught in the lies, didn't care, kept right on going, and now almost a year from when this atrocity, thank you, John Kerry, gigolo of the world, just got their jobs back. So nobody has been punished. Nobody has suffered a moment. The guys are very, very dead. Their families have no answers. And you know, in that other country known as your federal government, they don't care. It means nothing to them. As Hillary Clinton said, what difference does it make? As Jay Carney, the press secretary for Obama, says, that was a long time ago. That was in another universe, on another planet. That has nothing to do with us anymore. Why are you even bringing it up? Why do you even talk about it? It's not important. 4 dead Americans, 32 wounded Americans are very important.